it's easy to feel like going into Q4, okay, there's not enough of the year left to really move the needle or make a change or see an impact. So we're just going to kind of lay back and let the year happen to us, and whatever comes will come. And I especially think I hear this in practice areas that have longer case resolutions or longer life cycles of a case. So, okay, I'm going to focus on what I have now, but if the life cycle of my case is 12 months or 18 months, I'm going to put those cases kind of to the side because I'm not going to be able to realize much in this year, right? And so, because I hear that a lot, and also the dynamics of the challenges of this year, I think we're even more prone to like giving up, I guess is the word I want to say, like giving up or just letting business happen to us or letting business just flow for what it is. And so I thought it would be a great time for us to like have a conversation around how do we stay motivated or get motivated to end the year strong or as strong as possible, but also talk about what are those really critical things we don't want to lose sight of in Q4 that are going to help in 2021, right? And even in 2022. So let's not set those things to the side, but what are the activities we can be doing, for our business, on our business, with our clients here at the end of the year that are going to help us ensure that we get good momentum going into next year. And we don't start the year next year with a lull or a dull momentum. So with that sort of context of, how do we end the year strong and set ourselves up for success going forward? I want to start with the question and get you all to sort of chime in on how are you feeling right now going into Q4? Let's start with how are you feeling, and I want to hear similarities and consistencies and also differences and maybe why you're feeling that way. Anyone want to start?
Well, I'll kick it off. And I just talked to, I'm not an attorney, but I pumped hopefully our attorneys up yesterday. I was on with our litigation group. I meet with the litigation group separately within our transactional and our family law. But I told them that, and the reason I told them this is to motivate them is I usually bring one referral into the firm for the last 3.5 years a week. In the last month and a half, I've been averaging 2 to 3. So there's business to be had. So we all know people. I hear this all the time. There's a lot of great attorneys out there, but if you're top of mind, and you don't have to physically be top of mind, and when somebody happens to need an attorney and you meet that need, you got better chances. And so I said that to motivate our attorneys is that, I've been there with the firm 3.5 years. In the last couple months, I've gotten more referrals than I have. And it's just because I'm not physically out there. I am doing some coffees. I am doing very few lunches, but mostly outside, a lot of Zooms. And I know people don't like Zooms introductions, but it for me and for our firm, it is working. And so it's not just me. I think our firm's doing pretty well. But
great.
I say that only to motivate other people, is just like people always say during the holiday season. I tell this to job seekers too. Don't give up. This is probably the best time to do it. And so, just don't ease back. I mean, I just try to, and I'd say the same to you all. And I think you know that, but I think it's worth reinforcing.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, can you talk a little bit how you do a Zoom introduction? Somebody you want to have lunch with or with or coffee with in the pre-COVID world, how do you do a Zoom introduction with them?
Well, good question. So I'll give you two case scenarios. After this call, I do two things. I do individual introductions and I do group introductions. So right after this call, I'll be getting on. I coordinated with my counterpart at Mueller Probst accounting firm in Clayton. He is going to be bringing on 6 to 7 of their CPAs. I'm going to be bringing on 6 to 7 of our attorneys. And I made sure that they have some of their younger CPAs as well as their partners and shareholders, and we're doing the same. So we're doing a 1 hour facilitated where everybody talks, everybody just answers 2 or 3 questions, but everybody has an opportunity with, in the very beginning, a quick overview of our firm, a quick overview of their firm. And we're off. I've done probably 4 or 5 of these during COVID with CPA firms, with financial advisors, with insurance companies. And so that's kept our attorneys, it's easy for the attorney because it's less than an hour. The other one-on-one, I'll give you another case. I'm having one of our attorneys, a younger associate that does a lot of employment law. I'm introducing her to a financial advisor at Edward Jones on an individual call. I've never met this financial advisor, but when she reached out to meet with me to kind of have me help build her network, I said, do you mind if I bring one of our attorneys? I think it's always good for you to meet attorneys because you two are about the same age. You can continue your careers. So I have one attorney on this afternoon that is also on our diversity and inclusion committee. And this woman from Edward Jones is on her diversity and inclusion committee. So there is some commonality. So we're going to be doing a one-on-one. But Kim, the one-on-ones I do are usually 30 minutes, no more. And so that's how it's worked for me. Now, sometimes I will just meet with individuals first. If I have a sense that maybe it's not, the initial meeting should just be the individual I'm meeting and me versus bringing an attorney. But if I see some commonality, I'll invite an attorney to be on the call.
Can I go to the last two questions? What can happen if you don't get help now? What's likely to happen if you still struggle with your depression or your drinking problem, whatever? And when will you know it's time to ask for help?
Is someone not on mute? What's going on?
So, yeah, sorry. So I've been waiting since 10 to get on a training that I'm supposed to be on.
Oh.
And so finally I gave up and decided to join this group. And then just as I was joining, they let me into the training. So I'm on the computer that I usually don't use for this. So
We're like, wait, what's going on with someone's drinking problem?
yeah.
I thought somebody was crashing us.
I'm not used to using it on my laptop. So
No, you're all good. They're looking at us like, are we getting hacked? What's going on?
Their meeting is going to be a lot more interesting. Maybe we should listen to theirs.
Yeah, turn it up.
Yeah.
Turn it up.
I will mute
Sorry,
myself
just
now.
kidding.
Yeah.
No, you're good. So the question, Randy, the question that you might not have heard because you didn't get on until after is, how are you feeling right now going into Q4, right? So Chris at Carmody, they're feeling pretty good and pretty strong because their momentum's actually picked up. How are you guys feeling going into the end of the year? And then
we're feeling pretty good about it. I mean, ours is not really, it hasn't changed. The areas that dropped off are still dropped off. The areas that are going well are still going well. So it actually, normally much of our practice is litigation based. So, which often slows down quite a bit in the end of the year. And I'm anticipating that at least the work that is still going forward is not going to slow down this year because everything's taking longer and it's so backed up. So
backlogged, yeah.
have to see how that works. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to mute you now, Randy. Kim, how about you or Joe or Michelle? How are you guys feeling going in?
Yeah, I'll go. Well, I am feeling a lot of anxiety after the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I really mean it. I'm struggling with sleep. I'm struggling with, I couldn't watch the debate. So for me, I mean, the political bleeds over into the professional and bleeds over into the personal. And I don't know, I'm working on, I guess, personally, just how to deal with all that. In terms of mediations and arbitrations, though, I'm as busy as I want to be. I mean, right now, I think I have one day. This is super cool for me. I think I have one day that I'm not working in October as a mediator or an arbitrator. That's pretty astounding.
Wow.
November's busy too. December right now is pretty empty. And for mediation and arbitration, we'll see. Sometimes before the end of the year, that really picks up. But I think in part, I'm busy because I've upped my marketing outreach through Jamie and Sarah and Matt. So I need to make sure I shout out to them because they're doing a really nice job for me. Yeah. And it's showing. I mean, I am getting more first-time lawyers using me as well as more return lawyers using me as a mediator. So that's really nice. And next year seems like, a million years away. And I know it's not, but I guess I haven't put a lot of thought into next year yet, and I need to.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good. Anybody else? How you feeling?
This is Michelle Skinner. I am a litigator, but I'm also managing partner of our firm. So I don't really know what to say about Q4. I will say though that the number of hours that our attorneys have billed, including myself, has increased. So the number of hours are good, but our collections are down. In fact, that is my next set of phone calls with people trying to strategize on how they are going to get some of these invoices paid before the end of the year. But I don't know, but I have to agree with the political climate and the Black Lives Matter movement. There is a lot of uncertainty, in the country today that does bleed over into how, things are colored in your professional life. So that is causing me a little bit of anxiety as well.
That makes sense. I mean, I like that you mentioned that, and also Kim saying, what's going on with us personally always affects what's going on professionally. One of my biggest pet peeves is when people say, it's not personal, it's business. And I'm like, it's always personal in business because we're people. Right? It's just like, it's just my perspective. And maybe you guys, I've said it before. Now looking back on it, I'm just big eye roll at myself, right? Like, it's always personal because we are people. And like, I love that you guys said that, because it is fair that what is happening with us in here affects our businesses. And it needs to also make us cognizant of how that's affecting our clients and how they're interacting with us and how it's affecting our people and their engagement, right? So I love that you both were transparent about those things, because I think it's a very real thing. And when we're managing a business, how we're feeling personal will always affect our business. So I'm really glad that you were transparent and vulnerable with that.
My business, not big items, but little things are picking up right now. And I find myself actually more towards Kim and Michelle's point is, I am actively trying to avoid sources of conflict, looking for similarities and points of connection between people rather than points of division, because it just seems like we have so much division in this country. A friend of mine was reminding me this morning, I've been sort of out of sorts, and he reminded me this morning, and sort of what Randy was listening to, the ongoing, and it's now, 6 months or more, this ongoing stress and uncertainty, now compounded with the election. This is the kind of stress that we're not built to handle. I mean, human beings. So, it's the time to take more time for yourself, more time to talk to friends, more time for the personal connections, meditation, journaling, all that stuff, and stay away from the news and don't drink too damn much.
I feel like you're preaching to me, Dave. I'm so glad you chimed in.
Yeah, I definitely want to echo what everyone else has said. I'm, not an attorney, but I do work with attorneys. And recently I've been wishing my job didn't require me to be on social media so much, because I definitely would have taken a mental health break from social media if that was not the case. I think my biggest worry kind of going into Q4, not so much business related, but a lot of the things that we've been able to do, like a lot of the in-person stuff or socially distant stuff we've been able to do has been because of the nicer weather. And I'm a very social person. And so I've been trying to get in as many social interactions as I can before the weather gets cold. Because, we started this pandemic, at least here in Missouri, the weather was, kind of chilly at the beginning of March, but we were able to go outside and go on walks and stuff pretty much as soon as these closures started. So having to deal with all of this, but in the winter. And I know Michelle probably knows more about this than we do, because I know Chicago wasn't nice until about May, but just mentally having to prepare myself for, maybe some more social isolation or just moving back to the Zoom calls and stuff with friends is a little intimidating for me, and kind of heightening my anxiety on top of the political climate that we're in right now. I wish we can kind of fast forward to January 2021 already and just have it over with. But
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing. Zoe, do you want to jump in?
I've been really disappointed the last month with professionalism on Zoom calls. It seems like we all started out somewhat hesitantly and then became more comfortable. But I have a lot of Zoom calls with committees, 10, 12 people, and particularly my young lawyers, and I don't mean to point them out, but this week I had a really unpleasant Zoom call with a committee chair that was just rude and unprofessional, and was laying on a pillow with a wrinkled sweatshirt, and I know that appearances aren't everything, but we do need to keep some sort of normalcy in our appearances, even if we're on Zoom calls. But it's helpful to hear what Dave says, because maybe that is all the frustration of everything, of the politics, of the being confined. But I'm not sure how, in a meeting, I'm able to, in an in-person meeting, kind of lower those horrible comments. But on a Zoom call, sometimes somebody can just take over and really be not kind, and I have higher expectations for attorneys, I guess, than
Well, they can be some of the most childish people, too. Sometimes lawyers can. One other thing I thought, I've already voted, and I'm trying, so I've done my part, and one of the things, and not so much with the Zoom calls and lack of professionalism, but I've done my part. And as far as the outcome of the election, it's outside of my control. And so I just have to, wait for the results and not worry about really there's nothing I can do about it. So don't worry about it.
Right.
One thing that I've been doing, and I think Sarah knows this, is if I need to communicate with someone, I'm picking up the phone and calling them rather than emailing them or texting them. And I mean, I'm doing it purposefully because I do feel isolated. I mean, this is my my world now. My whole universe is my house, and I'm finding that it's a little easier for me, I guess, to stay socially connected, at least if I can talk to people on the phone versus emailing them or texting them.
No, I like that you said that. And just to add on to that, what I've started doing too is FaceTiming. So if you have the ability to FaceTime, it's not Zoom. I think Zoom has a different feel. If I'm making a phone call and I'm not like in the car or something, I'm going to intentionally FaceTime, especially if it's like a personal call, right? I might not like FaceTime, for a professional call or something, but if it's personal, I'm going to FaceTime because I know I'm going to see your face. You're going to see my face. We'll be able to pick up on each other's, mannerisms a little bit better. And it makes it feel like it's more in person, or that, it really is face to face, right?
So what do you think about protocol? Like, let's say there's somebody that I've never FaceTime with before, but maybe, we're friends or professional acquaintances. Do you text them to say, hey, can we FaceTime? Or what do you think is the best protocol?
That's what I've been doing, actually. There are certain people, right, where we FaceTime regularly.
Well, yeah, my kids, right.
Or we already have that relationship. But if I've never FaceTime with someone, but I've talked to on the phone, I will text them and say, hey, I want to set up a time when we can talk. Can we FaceTime, later? When are you free? Like, there's still like a certain level of plannedness about it, because I get it that if you try to FaceTime someone randomly, you never know like where they're at in their life. Are they cooking dinner with kids or doing school with kids or whatever? So yeah, I do set the expectation over text. And then there are certain people that now that's all we do is FaceTime. So if they call me or I call them, we expect a FaceTime. And if you're unavailable, you just don't answer, and then you FaceTime them later, right? And I've been doing that a lot more with my kids too. And my kids are not with me, instead of calling them, I always FaceTime them, or they're on Facebook Messenger. And now they've learned how to video call me. So they can video call me from it's a kids messenger app. That's a specific, like, secure app just for them. So when I'm traveling, like, I was in a meeting the other day and my kid was like video calling me like 4 times. And I was like, I'm sorry, can I just answer this real fast? I want to make sure it's not an emergency. And it's like a blessing and a curse now that they know how to use the technology, let's put some parameters around this, right? You can't just call me anytime. Like, I want to, but
I'm guessing it was Parker that called you 3 to 4 times in a row.
100% Parker. Yeah. My little persistent future in sales 6-year-old kid. So yeah. Let's transition quickly. Let's talk about how are you now focusing maybe differently for Q4? Like, have you set your mind to a new strategy or a new focus or a new methodology going into the end of the year than when you started the year, or even where you were after Q2? Or are you kind of towing the line, holding the course? We're just going to dig in, know what we know to do, and expect the best possible outcome given, challenging circumstances. Let's talk about that a little bit. So are you in the camp of we're towing the line, moving forward, trudging forward, maximizing value? Or, hey, we're in Q4, we're pivoting, we're thinking about things differently, we're focusing on things differently, whether it's practice area, whatever. Speak to that a little bit.
Jamie, one thing that I'm doing in 100% of my cases, because we're always setting dates for the hearing, setting dates for the mediation. And I am 100% pushing people to go by Zoom, or if they won't go by Zoom, we'll go in person with masks. But if someone's uncomfortable, whatever happens, we go to Zoom. And I'm getting their approval today, for a hearing next March, but it will be by Zoom if we can't do it in person. Mm-hmm. And I'm just planning this in the future. Who knows how long it's going to go, but I'm assuming that Zoom is here for us for the foreseeable future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great point. Anybody else, Joe?
Yeah, for me, one of the things that I started doing at the very beginning of the year, so January, was becoming very habit focused in my personal life, and then I'm trying to carry that over into the work life too. So I'd say I'm probably more in the camp of just stay the course and do what I've been doing consistently throughout the entire year. That's where I land on that issue.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anybody else?
I think some good things have come out of it. And again, from a bar association standpoint, it's a little bit different. But being forced to do CLE via Zoom has been a good thing for us. And with our geographic location being so huge, we'll probably never go back to as many in-persons. We'll probably do some hybrids. We'll probably do some special in-person events. But the ease and not only for the participants, but also for the presenters to sit at home is really quite good. And it's helped us get maybe perhaps better keynotes. So some positive things have come out of it as well.
Awesome. Anybody else?
I need to pivot. Even though it seems like we have been in this, pandemic situation for a while, I am still struggling with how to do it all. I have small kids. I am working from home, so the lines between personal and work are very much blurred. And but I am starting to feel the strain of all that. So what I want to happen for next year is, like someone said, have boundaries, around what is work time, what is personal time, that my kids can understand. And hopefully that will make me be a much more happier person.
I actually like that you shared that, Michelle, because I feel like boundaries, in my mind, I always think of boundaries as like in the context of maybe like a negative situation or someone who doesn't like to be put in a box. I always think of it like in a negative, but I've actually been kind of feeling recently that I don't have enough structure right around kids, personal, family, work. It's all so weaving in and out, and I like that fluidity, but it's creating more stress when I'm in the personal thinking about all the work stuff, and then when I'm in the work stuff thinking about all the personal stuff. And I like that you shared that, because like boundaries could actually create freedom, right? Like having some sort of structure could actually bring you freedom, not feeling like you're
Yes,
trapped.
absolutely.
So I like that you shared that. That's really good. Y'all are preaching to me today. So that's good. Anybody
Jamie
else?
and everyone, I'm going to have to cut out to get ready for that mixer, but thanks everyone for sharing your ideas and suggestions, and look forward to the next one. Jamie, thank you so much. And I have an introduction for you, Jamie, of an attorney that I think could really benefit from this as well.
Awesome.
Great,
Thank
Ed.
you, Chris. Cool.
Thank
Have
you
a great
all.
day. Good luck on your mixer. Yeah.
Thanks.
Anybody else thinking differently in Q4? I'll share what I'm thinking at LBO, but I just want to make sure everyone had an opportunity to share that wanted to.
Well, I guess I have a question. I think it was Joe that was talking about the routines and patterns and like habits that you've set. I'm just curious how people have been successful in keeping those with kind of this ever-changing climate. I feel like week to week, not only what's happening outside with politics or the news or, wildfires, all that stuff that we're hearing, but I found that I really have to bottle up all that stuff and just push through the week. And then my weekend is the time to decompress. And then it's very hard for me to get back into my routine on Mondays. So what are some ways that you guys have been successful in creating those boundaries and habits and like keeping true to them, especially if you're working from home and there's not a lot of accountability there?
Morning meditations.
Agree, 100%. I would say that my routine has been consistent for 2+ years every morning, which is workout, meditate, and then read before I start my day. And I've just maintained that course throughout the entire pandemic, throughout all of everything else going on in the world. Can't necessarily change it, but you can change how you react to it. And so from my vantage point, and my wife, just to tell everybody on here, my wife works in healthcare. So she's been going into the hospital day in and day out since this all started. And so that's added a little bit of additional anxiety in our household. But I think maintaining the same course that we have for the past few years has very much helped.
God, I was afraid you were going to say exercise.
I know. I was like,
here it comes. Here it comes.
But no, I've heard last year LBO went to a conference and heard, what was his name?
Hal Elrod.
Hal Elrod. And he was talking about a lot of that stuff, like the, I forgot what he called it, like the miracle minute or the whatever, but it's five different things you can do in the morning. And one of them was read more and meditate. So that's something, my roommates and I don't have a TV in the common area. We just pretty much watch stuff on our laptop. So I've been trying to read more fantasy, not real life books to escape.
Yeah.
And Sarah, and I don't envy your position either, being on social media. I've kind of removed myself from a lot of those items and a lot of the newsfeed type items, and switched to more what I will call healthier alternatives. Individuals or groups that are going to be more focused on those same aspects, health and wellness, positive aspects.
I was just thinking too, just making a mental note that, Sarah, we should probably, especially during the election season, maybe our whole marketing team should kind of take some turns in monitoring our clients' accounts for a season. I'm saying a season of time, but to give you that mental break for that 1 week, right? These 5 days, we're going to split up who's actually monitoring the account so that you can have that time to decompress or disconnect if you want, right? Personally, you don't have to, but
well, and there's ways we can do it. there's ways we can do it through Business Manager. It's just, we've been so interactive with our clients' accounts and making sure that we comment and stuff. So maybe kind of making a policy where we talk to the clients about, engagement's not going to matter this much during the week of the election. Everything's going to be drowned out. And yeah. So I don't know.
We're going to take a LBO social media break during this time frame.
Like, we will not be commenting and responding to trolls on your account during this time.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, it's just been, I myself, at least my screen time, I track on my iPhone how much screen time I have a week, and that's been down week over week the past several weeks. I really just log on to manage clients' accounts at this point. Made the mistake of posting a couple of posts of frustration, and then, family members start fighting on the not great platform. So I just realized the echo chamber of Facebook and everything else is just not the place to get out frustration.
For sure. Well, I'll share with you all. I think there's a couple of things here in like our last 20 minutes, like what something that LBO is doing, and then I think it leads into some encouragement on focus areas for law firms if you're not already focusing on a couple of things that I think will help build momentum into next year. So one of the things that we're doing at LBO is, I think the tendency in this environment is to try to hold back cash, like try to hold back spend, and be more risk adverse. And I think that, going into Q4, or where my mind was at in like August, was there, right? Like, how can we conserve cash? How can we like limit our spending as much as possible so we know we're prepared for anything else that might happen, right? Or not getting the growth we thought we were going to get. And then my mind kind of started shifting in September, because what I started realizing is that what I'm seeing is that law firms are still very much engaging in conversations around business growth, right? Like we're now seeing more the need for marketing. We're now seeing, maybe we shouldn't be managing our accounting in-house, or our accountant really sucks. Like, our bookkeeper has been terrible, and we realize that now, and we're spending way too much time on like these like thought processes, I think, have been happening, and that's like creating more conversations for us, while our sales process has slowed a little bit in terms of how quickly people are making decisions. Our pipeline has been growing. And so as I was seeing our opportunities growing, even though it's taking longer for decisions to be made, I started thinking, oh, wow, like if these opportunities start closing and firms are saying, okay, now I'm ready, we need to be ready for that. And if I'm too conservative on not spending or investing time in resources, meaning talent, or investing in infrastructure, or you name it, right? I'm going to miss it. Either we're not going to be able to take on the work because we won't have the talent or the capacity, or we're going to take it on and flounder a little bit. And so now I think more than ever for us, it's time to lean in to having the talent that we need a little bit ahead of the work coming in, instead of being reactive, being more proactive. And of course, that doesn't mean I'm saying, oh, I'm going to start losing money now, right? Of course, we're still managing cash, but instead of holding on to it or being more risk adverse, I'm going to say, okay, I have a stronger confidence that our pipeline is going to pull through, even if it's at a slower pace than it might normally. And I'd rather have the people in the infrastructure ahead of that work pulling through than us being reactionary. So I think that's how I'm thinking differently. And I just wanted to share it in case anybody else might have been having those like gut feelings going on inside your own mind too. And one of the really important things that I know you all probably know me well enough by now, you're going to be shocked by when I say this, is thinking about strategy, right? Like, did you know what was about to come out of my mouth? Is strategic planning is just like so, I think, critical, like even now more than ever, right? On if we just let the work happen to us, or we just let our business happen to us in Q4, I think we're doing our business a disservice in not thinking forward to 2021. Now, what 2021 is going to look like, or what we thought it was going to look like at the beginning of this year, might look completely different. But now I think it's really important to pull out that strategic plan that you put in place earlier in the year and really assess, okay, does this still make sense for next year? And if I don't have a strategic plan in place, and when I say strategic plan, I mean, what do I want my company or my firm to achieve over the next 3 years? And then how am I going to do it? Right? Like what needs to be in place? So I need to, do I have a billing system in place that's efficient because I know my business is going to grow, it needs to stay efficient? Is there anything that's broken in our current processes that we need to get fixed before we start to grow? Do we have a practice area that we really want to expand into to capitalize on an opportunity? Is there a practice area that's dying and we can see that it's dying, but it's kind of been this sacred cow that we really haven't addressed or talked about? Is there a lawyer on the team that's not been pulling their weight for a while and like it's time, right? It's time to have that conversation, or a paralegal or whatever. I think the strategic plan, people tend to think of it as being like lofty, but it's very operational in nature. This is what we want to achieve, but also like, here's the plan of how we're going to do that, whether it's implementing a new system or whether it's, getting rid of a person or adding a person, or now it's time to invest in marketing, right? Like we're not going to grow if we're not investing in marketing, and marketing means a lot of different things. That's a really big umbrella. So I really wanted to encourage everyone, whether you're sitting down and doing it yourself or sit down with a colleague where you can bounce ideas off of each other, or partnering with someone who does strategic planning formally, like LBO or another legal consultant, whatever, or whether you have a business coach that will sit down with you and help you to do this. Like, the statistics say that businesses that have a strategic plan in place experience 20% more in net income than those that don't. Like, I don't know why we still have an aversion to doing strategic planning. Maybe it's that we just don't know where to start, or like or we just prioritize all the client work ahead of our working on our business. We're working in our business too much instead of working on our business. And trust me, like this is as much a note. Like I wish I could say I'm as diligent on my own strategic plan as I am on my clients. Like I understand more than anybody the pressure, because I also am the business owner who has my own strategic plan, who's always prioritizing my client work over my own. And I have not we have a monthly vision meeting at LBO where we kind of walk through our goals and how are we performing to our goals. But I haven't pulled out my strategic plan in probably 4 months. And I'm like, oh geez, like I actually just made a note a second ago. I'm going to put it on my task list. Oh, I need to pull that out. Okay, I need to end the year strong. We still have Q4. The year's not over yet. What haven't we done on our strategic plan that makes sense that we need to push? But what can we still kind of accomplish in this year to help us feel accomplished, and because it's moving forward our goals? So, that's my encouragement for everyone. And, I'm really open, to hearing what you all would want to share too. If you've got anything that you think is good advice going into Q4 to keep people motivated and moving forward. Mine is get that strategic plan in place if you don't already, or revisit your current one so that you've got something really solid going into next year. And that strategic plan includes measurement, right? It includes what are we looking to achieve? How are we going to achieve it? And how can we get a little bit granular on what we're wanting to achieve? Like Kim knows, if I want this much in revenue, I need this many mediations. I really only want this many mediations because I'm at a point in my career where I don't want to be working 80 hours a week, Okay, when I meet with lawyers for an opportunity, how many of those actually turn into work? So we know how many meetings does Kim have to have with how many lawyers to get the work that she wants. That's an important part of your strategic plan. So you're not just which way is the wind blowing today, and it gets that granular. So anyone else, and if not, that's okay, but we can end early. But is there any thing that you've been thinking would be helpful to share that might help people going into the end of the year? One of our other clients real quick, their coach said to him, which I thought was really impactful. He said, at some point, Glenn, you just got to make the decision. And I thought that was actually really good advice too. Like, you've been talking about this for 4 months. Either decide to not do it or decide to do it, but stop talking about it. I'm like, that's actually really good advice too. Decisiveness one way or the other. So we're not feeling like we're still like in limbo, you know? I'm sorry, Dave, did you want to share something? I didn't.
I was just, I mean, I'm reminded that, you know, we're worried about Q4 and, you know, there's that book that I've mentioned a couple other times, 12 week a year, you know, and the whole point of that is that we don't push just in, you know, November and December, but we push to end every quarter, you know, every 12 weeks and start a new set of, you know, goals and metrics and all that. And I've found it to be pretty valuable, although I find my goals to be similar every quarter. You know, it's a good time. It's a good time to reset.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, definitely.
I think that, you know, part of as we're looking forward, or firms are looking forward, you know, we had out of necessity, many of them for a period of time, changing the way we were doing business. And I think just like we tend to do, we've now, many of them have settled into doing business that way. And it seems to me that if you can actually get some momentum to, you know, Jamie, as you would urge, you know, often in various areas, but also whether it's technology or whatever else, you know, if you've started to make some change, you know, try to keep some of that momentum going to maybe make some changes and use it as an additional, you know, impetus, you know, to do that, whether it's, like I said, I'm always a big fan of, you know, technology and things like that. But you know, I think that's maybe a way to get people motivated to do that, or to get others, because of course part of the strategic planning, as we know, is getting other people on board for it. But you know, and maybe even looking at, you know, some of the different ways. I've encouraged several people recently who have opened back up, smaller firms who've opened back up, you know, to start trying out some of the you know, like, you know, remote assistance, if you will. You know, physicians have done it for a long time, and there are some out there that are available, and people have the ability to do that. And I think, you know, I think that that's where, you know, some people could see some efficiencies. I don't know much about it, I'm guessing, but you know, at least from what little I know about it. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, good. Well, anyone have any limerick, meme, funny, humorous thing to share? Get the timing of this call, like, I was thinking about that because I always like to share funny things. I was thinking about this. I'm like, ooh, there's all kinds of like funny things that happened in the debate. You didn't miss much, Kim, by the way. Actually, you know what? I've actually told a couple people this. It's a long story, but we ended up, like, a friend of mine and I watched like the first like 10, 15 minutes, but then we ended up like going to dinner with other friends. And so we came back and we watched it like after it was already over. So we could be like, you know, having a little drinking game, like while we were watching the debates. Cause we were like, we know this is going to be a little bit of a, like we're not sure what it's going to be like. It actually was more fun because we could pause it. And we could pause it and like talk about it and then like restart it again. So anyways, I was like, there's so many funny like memes out there right now about the debate. I don't really want to share anything too political that would create an issue. But anyway, does anyone have anything funny to share?
I wish that it was easier to share videos over this because I have a lot of funny TikToks I want to share. That aren't too political. They're just fun. That's actually been the one social media escapism that I love because I've curated it enough that I just get the funny, random, weird TikToks that, but I guess for me, the one, I don't know if this is a limerick or something fun, but if you haven't watched Schitt's Creek, they did a big sweep at the Emmys, and watching all of those acceptance speeches just gave me a lot of, like, it just really, I mean, I was like happy crying for them. And it just gave me a wave of emotion to see the success that this like little, I mean, literally it was a family that made the show together, but Annie Murphy, who's the lead, only had $200 in her bank account when she got the role, and her apartment had just burned down. And here she is getting her first time Emmy, winning this award. That was just really inspiring to me. So I'll send a link to, but you can just look on YouTube, the Schitt's Creek Emmys award acceptance speeches. That was really inspiring for me. So
that's really cool. Thanks for sharing that, Sarah. I was also thinking, Sarah, let's share in our LinkedIn group that TikTok that you sent me, or Sarah Marlar sent me, because I think it really speaks to what Zoe was talking about professionalism on Zoom calls. And there's a TikTok video that shows Zoom
March 2020
March 2020 versus August 2020, and it shows the progression of someone wearing their button up with their coffee and engaged, to someone in a robe with a full beard taking a shot of tequila and chasing it with some lime before they get on the call. I just think it's so well connected to Zoe's feedback on professionalism. It's like sad but true, but kind of
well,
fun.
see, I kind of maybe this is just a generational thing. I definitely would not be laying down on a pillow on a Zoom call. I'll put that out there at least. But I have appreciated kind of the peel back of professionalism. Like, I don't think Randy, I think, is the only one wearing a button up right here, but everyone's pretty, t-shirts and jeans. I appreciate the level of, I guess, more casualness that we've accepted. And, if there's cats or children running in the background, we just kind of accept that as part of the chaos, even though everyone does try to find a quiet space to take these calls. So I have appreciated like the humanity in it, but I do agree. There is a line where, don't, especially with, I've heard from college professors where students are just literally showing up wearing maybe just a sports bra on their university calls. And I'm like, yeah, that's a different level. That's a little too casual. But I'll share that TikTok in there and a link to the Schitt's Creek stuff. But that TikTok really spoke to me personally. I'm not doing shots before Zoom meetings though, Jamie. Just don't worry, I'm not doing that.
Okay, cool. Good to know. This has been great. Thank you all again for giving of your time and your input and your experience. It's always really valuable. So we'll see you in a couple weeks. All right.
Bye-bye.